Hi, my name is Destiny Diaz, and today I'm going to be talking about Tiresias. Throughout Greek mythology, Tiresias is an accomplished and effective prophet of Apollo. He lived in Thebes, playing an active role in many Greek tragedies, including the downfall of Greek kings Laius and Oedipus. Tiresias is the son of the nymph Chariclo, taking part in many legends being mentioned by Greek authors Sophocles and Homer. In Thebes, he played a part in the stories of Oedipus, Odysseus, and Antigone. Tiresias was rumored to live for 7 generations, dying after the expedition of 7 against Thebes, a fight between Oedipus' son for the throne and Creon's rule as king. Tiresias was killed by Apollo at Tilphusa, a tainted spring, with an arrow. His soul was quickly sent to the first level of the underworld. Although there is not much documentation, Tiresias had a family, which is inferred due to his time spent as a woman. Tiresias lived as a man, a woman, and a man once more. Him turning into a woman was a result of him wounding mating snakes, ultimately being punished by Hera for his actions. For 7 years, Tiresias served as priestess for Hera, returning to the place in which he was transformed in an attempt to reverse the spell. Upon returning, Tiresias saw the same mating snakes, however, he left them alone, returning to a man. During this time, as a woman, Tiresias married and bore children. Furthermore, he is depicted artistically as both genders. Throughout all of Tiresias' artistic portrayals, he has been painted as a seeing man, a blind man, using his prophetic abilities and performing the harming of the snakes. Tiresias was portrayed as a wise-looking man who is often doubted by those surrounding him despite his true gift of prophecy. His physical traits include lifeless eyes due to his blindness, a long beard, and was often seen holding a cane for a symbol of power. Furthermore, he was associated with snakes since they are arguably changed his perspective as a man, as well as his future. Although Tiresias is a blind prophet, he was not born blind. It is argued that he lost his sight through his change of genders. However, there are several stories in telling how Tiresias lost his sight. One story places his blindness in the hands of the Greek goddess Hera. It was told that Hera and Zeus disagreed on which gender could feel more pleasure. When Tiresias was consulted by the gods, he sided with Zeus, leading to Hera striking him blind. Because of Tiresias' support and to compensate for his blindness, Zeus gave Tiresias longevity and the gift of prophecy. Another account places Tiresias' loss of eyesight in the hands of the goddess of war, Athena. It was told that Tiresias saw Athena bathing in a lake and found himself unable to turn away, with her blinding him as punishment. Chariclo begged Athena to return Tiresias' eyesight, however, she could not return his sight, and instead gave him prophetic abilities, pointing his life in a different direction. Although Tiresias played a short role in Homer's The Odyssey, his character was effective in aiding Odysseus on his trek home. Tiresias was able to retain his prophetic abilities in the underworld. He meets Odysseus in Book 11, telling Odysseus how to return to Ithaca safely and allowing him to speak with the dead. Odysseus and his men travel to the underworld under the recommendation of Circe, making sacrifices by the river to attract the souls of the dead. The first soul that appeared to Odysseus was a crewmate who perished on the journey back to Ithaca. The crewmate appeared to beg Odysseus to return to the island in which he died and give him a proper burial. The second person who appeared to Odysseus was Tiresias. Tiresias tells Odysseus that Poseidon is punishing the Achaean people for blinding Polyphemus, his son. He also tells Odysseus that he will return home and reclaim both his palace and wife. Tiresias then warns Odysseus of several dangers he will face on his way home, including the cattle of the sun god, Charybdis, and Silca. Tiresias tells Odysseus, "Keep your mind on your homecoming, and you may still reach Ithaca, though not without pain," lines 108 through 109. Also going on to say, "Return to your home and offer perfect sacrifice to the immortal gods who hold high heaven," lines 129 to 131, ensuring that if Odysseus follows what Tiresias has prophesied, he will perish of old age and his kingdom will be prosperous. Tiresias then allows Odysseus to speak with his mother, who died of grief, waiting for Odysseus to return home. Although his men disobeyed him in his warnings, Odysseus listened intently to Tiresias and returned home safely. In the Odyssey, Tiresias aids Odysseus in returning home, telling him how to surpass beings that may have otherwise kept him from returning home, while also allowing him to fulfill one of his personal needs. In Oedipus the King, Tiresias motivates and propels Oedipus throughout the story. He also warns Laius of his and Oedipus's fate, causing Laius to attempt to take Oedipus's life. Throughout the story, Tiresias emphasizes knowledge and truth. In Oedipus the King, Oedipus was sent to perish on a mountain due to Tiresias' prophecies. Oedipus was to murder his father and marry his mother, however, he was not killed and was instead adopted by another kingdom. Learning of the prophecy, Oedipus ran from his kingdom, unknowingly running towards his fate. He murders Laius, saves Thebes, and marries his mother before he begins investigating the king's death. Oedipus consults Tiresias about the investigation, attempting to find the person who murdered Laius. At first, Tiresias was hesitant to provide Oedipus with a direct answer to his inquiries, providing him with subtle hints instead. Tiresias tells Oedipus that he would likely not wish to know who the killer of Laius truly is. Acting in anger, Oedipus accuses Tiresias of being a false prophet. In response to Oedipus's insults, Tiresias states, "Since you have thrown my blindness out at me, I will tell you what your eyes don't see. You don't see where you live or who shares your house." Lines 497 to 500. Throughout the play, Oedipus is searching for knowledge on who murdered King Laius without being knowledgeable of who he truly was. Tiresias' prophecy to both Laius and Oedipus were truthful due to each of their actions. Furthermore, Oedipus' mother Jocasta was aware of the prophecy becoming true before Oedipus knew, making several attempts to shield him from the truth. Ultimately, Tiresias' prophecy emphasizes the values of knowledge and truth throughout Oedipus the King. Oedipus' adopted parents had many opportunities to be truthful about who he was and where he came from instead of shielding him from that information. Instead of knowing his true origins, Oedipus was unaware of who he was until moments before his exile and death. In addition, it is told that Tiresias also played a role in Thebes' government after Oedipus' exile. Oedipus' sons refused to share the kingdom and started fighting each other continuously, also known as 7 against Thebes. One of Creon's sons consulted Tiresias, inquiring about the solution to the fight. Tiresias revealed that a sacrifice had to be made to save Thebes, ultimately leading to Creon's son's suicide to save the Greek city. In Sophocles' Antigone, Tiresias attempts to warn Creon of the consequences of his action. He is led in by a boy, with Creon stating he would follow the advice Tiresias suggested due to his past relations with Oedipus. However, as Tiresias informs Creon that his refusal to marry Polynices and his punishment of Antigone would bring down a curse on Thebes from the gods, Creon becomes enraged and unwilling to listen to Tiresias' prophecy. He goes on to tell Creon, "Thou hast thrust children of the sunlight into the shades, and ruthlessly lodged a living soul in the grave, but kept in this world one who belongs to the gods infernal, a corpse unburied, unhonored, all unhallowed. In such thou hast no part, nor have the gods above, but this is a violence done to them by thee." In this quote, Tiresias is explaining to Creon that his dishonor to Polynices has also served as a dishonor to the gods. Creon insulted Tiresias by calling him a false prophet, also going on to call all prophets power-hungry. Tiresias responds by turning the insult back onto Creon, emphasizing the importance of burial rites to the gods, and arguing that mortals may only live the ruling world, having no control after death. Before Tiresias becomes unwilling to listen to Creon's insults and has his boy lead him away, Tiresias informs Creon that groups are rising within Thebes due to Creon's unjust treatment of their dead. In Antigone, Creon speaks of importance of practical judgment over a sick mind, while Tiresias informs Creon that he lacks practical judgment and has a sick mind. When negativity ensues, the messenger emphasizes that the worst thing affecting mortals is their lack of judgment. Having wisdom within judgment entails the recognition of human limitations and making decisions accordingly, taking account of divine law. At the end of the play, Creon shows his growth in wisdom when he no longer mocks death, instead speaking respectfully of the consequences of his actions. Although Antigone shows pride and disobedience, her wrongdoings are not as consequential as Creon's. Arguably, if Creon would have acted on Tiresias' advice sooner rather than rejecting his advices and insulting him, Creon could have mended his mistakes and prevented the many deaths that resulted from his pride. Overall, Tiresias represents the law of the gods and great wisdom, sometimes conflicting with the laws of man. In conclusion, Tiresias was a prophet who was given his abilities and longevity by the gods, having several accounts of how he received these gifts. He was an accomplished and well-known prophet of Thebes who appeared to make an impact on several works and characters, including Oedipus the King, Antigone, and the Odyssey. He lived as both genders, also appearing as each gender throughout many artistic depictions, having several characteristics in each depiction. Tiresias aided Odysseus on his trek home to Ithaca, warning him of the dangers to come and ensuring him he would be able to return home and to his kingdom and his wife. He also played several roles in Oedipus's life. He does so first by informing Laius and Jocasta of his future. He then attempts to shield Oedipus from his true origins, his deeds, and the true identity of those surrounding him. After Oedipus is exiled, he reveals how to save Thebes, finally ending his journey in Antigone. In Antigone, Tiresias attempts to aid Creon by providing him with the advice of burying Polynices and releasing Antigone. Although Creon did not follow Tiresias' directions immediately, the death of Creon's wife, son, and Antigone could have been avoided if he had listened to Tiresias instead of insulting him due to his pride. Tiresias is a well-known character that plays a vital role in many Greek lives.